Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to True Crime Unraveled. I'm your host, Robert. When we think about in the Brian Koberger case, when we think about search warrants for the cell tower and the cell phone records, we think of when they were searching for Brian's cell records and Brian's cell tower data. Well, how come in the very beginnings of the case you have a Maori? Uh, when he did the search warrant uh, for the T-Mobile, why was he looking at Dylan and Kaylee's phones with the stating that there was evidence of the homicide? Lawrence Mallory having given proof upon oath this day showing probable cause, establishing grounds for issuing a search warrant, and probable cause to believe property consists of certain evidence of the crimes of homicide, to wit, user account information, location data, and stored communication held by T Mobile, described in further detail as follows. Why was he looking at Kaylee and Dylan's phones, saying that there was proof of a homicide? That's what I don't understand. if the and if the investigation was not over with, why arrest this man 2,500 miles away from his home in Pullman at his parents' home in a raid that would make the one that happened on El Chapo's compound look like a cakewalk? Is Dylan somehow involved in this? I don't know. Um, is there something Kaylee's not innocent of? I don't know. Why were they looking at both Kaylee and Dylan's phones, saying that there was evidence of this homicide months before the homicides happened? The homicides happened in November of 2022. The search warrant was for August 1st, between August 1st and November of 2022. Exactly what was going on with these kids in this house? What was going on with Dylan? What was going on with Kaylee? Um, why do they need to search their phone records through T-Mobile, stating that there's evidence about the homicides on Kaylee and Dylan's phones? That makes me that makes me sit back and wonder exactly what the hell is going on in this case. And you have the two Google searches, one of Kaylee's, one of Brian's. What is the Moscow police trying to hide in this investigation? It just it makes me scratch my head to know that they were uh, searching through Kaylee and Dylan's phone for some reason, and especially when it came to location data and stored communications. Okay, location data. Well, that would be cell tower data and stored communications held by T-Mobile. Okay, and it reads in the smaller print, to the extent that the information is within the possession, custody, or control of T-Mobile hereafter the service provider, including any messages, records, files, logs, or information that have been deleted but are still available to the service provider or have been preserved pursuant to a request made under 18 USC 2703F. The service provider is required to disclose the following information to the government for the following listed accounts and or numbers. And the accounts were Kaylee and Dylan. So exactly what really is going on in this case? Why would they want Kaylee and Dylan's location data or logs or anything like that pertains to one of the victims, which is Kaylee? Are they trying to say that Kaylee knew something about the murders? I don't know. I mean, I know she's one of the murder victims. Her, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. I just think that they should have waited to bring Brian in until this entire investigation is over with, because they didn't start looking at Dylan and Kaylee's phones until after the murders. After after Brian was arrested, that's when they started looking in on Kaylee and Dylan's phones. Yeah, for August, from August to November, that's what they were looking for. Yeah, the above described evidence is located within the following described premises: T-Mobile. So the MPD feels that there's some type of evidence on Kaylee and Dylan's phones, and they went back to August, and they went back in the T-Mobile records to August 1st. Now we know that Kaylee was living in the home in August because she didn't move until, I think, like May or May or July. Uh, but she wasn't living there in May. Brian didn't get to the area until June of 2022. So Kaylee would have more likely moved in July, because I believe Maddie was already living there, and so was Dylan and Bethany. Ashlyn Couch had moved out, and she had sublet her room to Xana because, according to the lease, Ashlyn was still on the lease, even though she had sublet her room out to Xana. And and with all those people that was at the house when the roommates, when the victims and survivors weren't home, of course you had the frats there, you know, Hunter Johnson and the rest of them. It makes me wonder if, during the summer, when the roommates weren't there, if they weren't subletting the house out to, say, the frats, because Ethan and Xana was at Ethan's parents' lake house during the summer, and we all know that Kaylee and her family took these extravagant vacations to the Caribbean and to Mexico, and Maddie always went with them. So so you would have Kaylee and Maddie out of the house. You would have Ethan and Xana out of the house. And well, what about Dylan and Bethany? And, and just the thing about Dylan, her her exact location wasn't confirmed the night of the murders. Yeah, it wasn't confirmed until like 1 o'clock, and when it said that her and Bethany came back to the house around 1 or 2, because Bethany was over at the Sigma Chi party, and I don't think that Ethan and Xana actually stayed until 1:45 at the Sigma Chi party, because Ethan's dad. Now, Xana's dad called her, and she had stated to her dad that her and Ethan was at the house eating pizza, and that was at midnight. But this whole thing, guys, this whole thing with with these search warrants for Dylan and Kaylee's phone, it just got me scratching my head right now. And these search warrants weren't done until after Brian was arrested. So, what are they looking for in these search warrants to Kaylee and Dylan's phone? That was yes, that goes back to August 1st of 2022. That's the whole thing that makes you go, hmm. And Mallory stating that there's evidence of the murders on their phones. So what type of evidence is it? That's what I would like to know exactly. What type of evidence would be on their specific phones, on Kaylee and Dylan's phones, that has evidence of the murders on it or on them? Now we all know the night of the murders, Dylan more than likely had her door cracked because the first time she got up, she opened the door, and and we all heard that she popped her head, door yelled shut, STFU, that, and she went and laid back down. Well, how do we know she didn't close her? How do we know she closed her door all the way? She could have just cracked it, and she could have been laying there and hearing everything that goes on in the house. You know, when she said she thought she heard the sounds of Gonzalez playing with her dog. You know, how do we know? How do we know that that wasn't screaming that she heard of Kaylee and Maddie being murdered? Because all we know is she opened her door 3 times that night, but it didn't say she closed it all the way. It just said opened. So, what if she had her door cracked most of the night, and on the third time opening her door, she sees she sees the killer leaving the house, and she gives the generic description of 5'10" or taller, athletic build, um, not muscular, bushy eyebrows. She just gives the description. She doesn't say if he's bloody. She doesn't say if there's a knife in his hand. She doesn't give the actual descriptions of what. She just gives the base generic description of a very tall man. Yeah, and the clad in black. 21-year-old says clad in black. Yeah, I mean, what do we know what she really saw the night? If she saw anything at all, I don't believe she saw anything at all. She might have heard stuff that night, laying in bed, and then, of course, she also told the police twice. She stood tall when she told them that she didn't see nothing, didn't know nothing, didn't know if it was real or a dream because she was drunk. And I think after that third time, they were coercing her into saying what they wanted her to say, even though the first 2 times she stood tall, that she didn't see nothing, didn't know nothing, and that third time it was more of a coercion type tactic, uh, to get her to do what they wanted to do, because they might have hung over the fact that she didn't call 911 for 8 hours. They might have hung that over her head and saying, "Well, you did. Yeah, there was a murder. You didn't call 911 for 8 hours. We could get you for obstruction of justice if you don't do this, this, and this." So, you know, that the PCA is full of holes, and it is. I call it a probable crap affidavit. But they could have coerced her by threatening to press obstruction of justice charges on her, because of the whole 8-hour gap in calling 911. I mean, you never know that that could be a logical thing that happened. What when she told him she didn't see nothing, didn't know nothing twice, and she stood tall when she did it, and she was drunk. That third time, they probably threatened her with some type of charges because even the cops were wondering exactly why uh, there was an 8-hour gap in between the time of the murders and the time that 911 was called. And even I believe it was Chief Lanier or Chief Fry stated in a press conference that there was multiple people in that house that morning, multiple, and they were all passing the phone around. And I honestly believe that the 911 call is not going to get released because it's uh, unconscious person call, and Hunter Johnson would have had to, because he was over there. I mean, how do we even know that the murders happened at 4 o'clock? The murders could have happened a lot earlier than 4 o'clock. They could have happened uh, between 2:54 and 3:16 in the morning, when you had all this. When you caught on body cam those guys running away from the vicinity of the King Road home, and Kaylee's phone goes offline at 2:56. So the murders could have happened a lot earlier than 4 in the morning. And I mean, honestly, guys, how do we know that the murders didn't happen earlier than 4? And Dylan started calling or texting everyone in the house after the killer left, because she didn't recognize him. She honestly stated that she thought he was a party goer that was leaving. And Bethany from the first floor heard uh heard two guys talking or yelling up there on the floor above her. So exactly what really is going on in this case? If but and I more than likely bet that's the exculpatory evidence that Ann Taylor said Bethany had, is because Bethany heard two males talking on the second floor above her. So could that have been the exculpatory evidence that she had? More than likely. And I mean, how do we know that that person that the out of state person from Zoom wasn't Bethany on the interview on the hearing on the 23rd, the closed part of the hearing? How do we know that wasn't Bethany that was the out of state witness? We don't, because the hearing was closed. We don't we don't know if that was Bethany. Last thing I heard, Dylan just had a baby yeah, I think by a law enforcement officer or some crap like that. So Dylan's going on with her life. She's having kids. I'm not sure about Bethany. Are they even going to? Yeah, are they going to testify at the trial? I don't know about Dylan, because Dylan got made out. Yeah, Dylan got her entire testimony got made out to be a liar by Ann Taylor at that hearing on the 23rd. When and why would you have uh, the prosecution or the police, when they went to the magistrate judge Marshall for the probable cause? Why would you leave out the fact that Dylan told you she didn't see nothing, didn't know nothing, and she was drunk. And why would you leave that out to Magistrate Judge Megan Marshall? Oh yeah, that's right. You didn't want the truth coming out in the end. You didn't want people to know that this entire case is fabricated against Brian Koberger. And I do believe it is. I believe it's fabricated. Why else are they sealing everything up? Now I know it's more likely to protect the integrity of the trial, but when you have Ann Taylor reading verbatim what Dylan's statements were, and both times she stood tall and said she didn't see nothing, didn't know nothing, she was drunk, she didn't know if it was real or a dream. And then the third time they started coercing her to do what they wanted her to do, maybe threatening some charges against her. And her being a 21-year-old young lady, she didn't want to go to jail. Very good possibility in this case. Very good possibility that the hashtag free BK, free BK. It's the hashtag free BK. I don't believe a damn word that comes out prosecution's mouth anymore. And you have the Gonzaleses who tainted it as well with their own jury pool. They tainted it there in Latah. I mean, if they wanted justice for their daughter and for Maddie, Kaylee, and Xana, if they wanted justice that bad, why would you poison it? And you didn't want the trial moved to a different county. You are against the change of venue. Then why do what you do? Then why did you do what you did to the point where it was moved out of Latah? Don't you think you doing your own jury survey? Well, you didn't think that was going to taint the jury pool and make the change of venue happen quicker? Like always, guys, like, subscribe, and while you're here, go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. This is True Crime Unraveled, and y'all have a good day. Peace.